had a wonderful trip to Israel, and I want to personally thank everyone who encouraged and prayed for me while I was there. I was in a group of about 30 people led by Jerry and Kevin Adams from Granite Springs Church in Lincoln, California. And they were wonderful guides of skill and compassion and fun. And all the people in the group were very special. And I truly enjoyed getting to know each person. And I feel very privileged and honored that I was able to be part of that group. And I discovered while I was on the land in Israel that I was able to factor in things about the people and the customs and the culture and the land itself that I had not done before. And there were 3 different ways that I felt I was impacted greatly. The first is simply gaining Bible data and knowledge. For example, I told the kids on Sunday, did you guys know that when Jesus was born, there were several things going on in every village that would create a perfect storm of people feeling very oppressed on the inside and the outside. For example, there was a tyranny of Herod, who was brilliant in many ways, but actually very cruel and created terror because he would kill anyone quickly if he thought they didn't agree with him. Then you had the grip of fear that the pagan gods like Baal and Pan had on the people because they were telling people that you had to do these certain rituals and weird sacrifices for the gods not to be mad at you. And then you had this beautiful religion of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that had defaulted into just do's and don'ts. And so into this, God dropped Jesus, who he knew would give the message that we can be free on the inside no matter what's going on the outside. So in addition to Bible data, there were several moments that were spiritually encouraging to me. For example, I was on the Via Dolorosa, which are the steps that Jesus walked from Pilate, carrying the cross up to the hill of where he was crucified. And I was sort of academically walking through this going, yeah, the cross was heavy and Jesus was weak and this is awful. And then I saw this picture and I thought, oh, look how it portrays Jesus and the cross. And then I said, oh, look at the angels. And I noticed that the angels, I don't know if you can tell or not, have these expressions of very compassion and care and concern. And I realized they were with Jesus every part of the way. And so often in my life, I will sometimes think I'm going at this alone. And I realize it is not the case. Just as the angels were with Jesus, there are angels that are with me and with all of us when we're going through all kinds of rough time. Angels who know what our purpose is. And I think God uses them to, and God himself encourages us with great compassion and love, even though what we're going through might be rough. That was very helpful to me. Then when I was standing on the Sea of Galilee, which is beautiful, by the way, this was a spot, probably, where Peter, after Jesus had died, Peter and his friends were out fishing. And I'm sure they were thinking, I'm sure they were discouraged, thinking, did we maybe get it wrong? I mean, is Jesus really the Messiah? And then John saw what he thought was Jesus on the shore and said, "It's the Lord." And Peter, of course, jumped out of the boat and went. And I think that is probably the moment where Peter was absolutely sure that all of this was real, and that to hope in Jesus was really the right thing to do. And I know that I think that God knows that we need moments like this, or I certainly do, when we are sure that all of this is true. And that was an encouraging thing for me to reflect upon. And then that's also the place where Jesus asked Peter, this is a statue of Peter, or sculpture of Peter, when Jesus is saying, "Do you love me?" 3 times, and Peter's saying yes. And then Jesus reinstates and restores Peter, and he says, feed my sheep, and gives him a job to do. And here's a picture where Peter is looking up at when Jesus is restoring to him. And Peter deserted Jesus when he needed him most. And it's encouraging to me to see that God really does restore us fully. And the third way that I was very impacted was learning a little bit more about the culture. And here's a picture of the Wailing Wall, or the Western Wall. And you see the dome in the middle, which is the temple dome. That's the center of Jerusalem that the Jews desperately want to go and pray. Right there, that's the center. But of course, it is controlled by Muslims, and no one's allowed to pray there unless you're a Muslim. And so this wall is the closest spot that a Jew can get to pray. And I saw people going and just leaning against the wall, collapsing against the wall, and praying their hearts out, and putting little prayers into the cracks of the wall. And I did that as well. But it helped me realize that, plus talking to many people who are both Jewish and Muslim, that they are far away from having peace. Basically, long story short, the Jews don't like the Arabs, and the Arabs don't like the Jews. And the Jews want the land, and the Arabs want the land. I don't see any quick way to achieve peace, and I am very committed to praying for the peace in Jerusalem. Also, we had the privilege of meeting an Arab Christian Baptist pastor in Nazareth, and they have a very small church, but he explained it has a huge impact because they are out in the villages helping the needy and helping free the oppressed, and they take seriously the love your neighbor as yourself, and they're making this huge, and just reminding me that all over the world God has people that are showing the world a little glimpses into what the kingdom of heaven is like. And this was one of the most exciting trips, and I am so thankful to have been able to go. Thank you so much for all of your encouragement. Thank you.